This is the ultimate video, maybe one of the best on the channel I've ever done. You see how clear this is? I'm just blown away today. Speed winemakers, this one's for you. If you want to make pineapple wine in less than 30 days, stay tuned to this video. I'm going to show you how to do it. I get a lot of comments. I don't have 3 to 4 months. I don't want to wait that long. Well, wait no more. I made this wine in 25 days. I got a technique down that will work, that you can make wine in less than 30 days. Like I said, 25 days. Can you see how clear that wine is? Even this technique blew my mind. And guess what? It's all in one video, no part 2 today. I'm gonna show you from beginning to end. Stay tuned, click that like and subscribe button, and let's not ramble and just get right into this.
Could it be you and I? Could it be you and I? Could it be you and I?
Yes, I said it. 25 days. And don't miss the end because we're even gonna taste this for you. I can't wait for that. Let's just get the counter started at day 1. So is this really possible to turn a pineapple into a bottle of wine in less than 30 days? Well, follow this recipe and follow these instructions. I did it. And I tell you one thing, it is one of the clearest wines I've ever made. And you all know by now, this is my favorite wine I've ever made. You gotta try it. This should be number 1 on your list. If you're new to this channel and you're just thinking about getting in the hobby, I highly recommend starting with pineapple wine. But we're gonna use 2 methods in this video to refine it, to get it clear, just like that. I hope you can see through that thing. I'll try and get it close. All right, here we are, day 1 of our 30-day winemaking experience. I'm going to show you how to do this. But first, we got to start with some fresh fruit. I got my favorite here, pineapple. Now, when you're using this recipe to make your 30-day wine, you can use any fruit, berries, strawberries, pineapples, bananas. Now, besides your pineapples, you're gonna need some additives, and I show you here. We got acid blend, Camden tablets, pectic enzyme, wine tannin, yeast nutrient. You see the Star Sand sanitizer, don't miss that, sugar, and Red Star yeast. Now, remember, as I go through this video, you're gonna see a lot of equipment, a lot of additives that I use. I got links to all this stuff in the description so you can find it easily. It's just better if you have access to order from Amazon. That's the best place to get some of this equipment. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get some sugar dissolved in some water. So here I got a 10-pound bag of sugar. You want 2 pounds of sugar for every gallon of wine. So since it's a 5-gallon batch, times 2 is 10 pounds of sugar. And now, a lot of you ask, how much water am I putting in here? At this point, it doesn't matter because we're gonna adjust that ABV a little bit later. I just wanna get enough to get the sugar covered. We just wanna keep this sugar stirred up because we wanna turn it into basically a simple syrup. So there we go. We'll get this going. Don't burn your sugar in this stage because it's just gonna affect the taste of your wine. All right, now it's probably hard to see here, but I can see my paddle at the bottom. So, and you can see it's definitely clear. I'm not scraping any sugar, which is what you want. It's just time to shut this off and you wanna let this cool to room temperature. So here I go. I got my Star Sand measured out, a 1/2 ounce. You gotta sanitize your equipment in this hobby. I'm gonna get some warm water going. You need measuring spoons, your airlock. You gotta have a stir paddle to stir your must every day. And this is definitely a must. You gotta have one of these, a hydrometer. I got a whole video on this and sanitation. Make sure you're watching that. And also a mesh bag. This, when you are making wine from fruit, is a necessity in my opinion. And a squirt bottle to fill up and squirt things down as you move along. All right, let's get everything sanitized here. I got my knife, my cutting board. You want to sanitize that? I got a bowl that I'm going to use for my fresh finished pineapple. We'll sanitize that down and let's start cutting away. Let's just cut some fruit up. You want to remove the bottom of your pineapple and cut off the top, and then remove the outer pieces, the skins. Whatever kind of fruit you're making with this recipe, whether it's strawberry, blueberry, you need 3 to 4 pounds of fresh fruit to make per 1 gallon of wine. So 5 gallons of wine, I want 15 to 20 pounds. I should get about 2.5 pounds out of each one of these pineapples. Let's see what we can do, but gotta get all this cut first. So there it is. Look at all that pineapple we got. I guarantee you it's between that sweet spot, 15 to 20 pounds. But I might just weigh it out just to be sure. But look at all these scraps. I wish there was something I can do with you with all these. If you're from Hawaii, let me know what you use these for. So sweet. So I just weighed it out. I had to put it in 2 containers to get it on my scale. So the total came out to about 17.5 pounds, which remember, we want 15 to 20. That's great, but I like extra pineapple flavor. So I grabbed some cores and I'm gonna throw that in too. So it's time to get our additives in. The first thing we wanna do is Camden tablets. And we want 1 Camden tablet per gallon of wine. And what these are gonna do is get rid of that wild yeast that might be in our pineapple. We don't want to deal with that. That can cause problems. I know a lot of you have done it. I just don't recommend it. So here we go. 5 crushed Camden tablets. And it's just best to do these between 2 spoons. And I always put my stuff at the bottom of the bucket. It's just how I do it. Could you put it at the top? Most definitely. And there's our 5. The next thing we want is pectic enzyme. It's gonna help with hazing in your wine. I want a 1/2 ounce per gallon, 5 gallon batch. I'm gonna put 5.5 in there. 5. Wine tannin. This is gonna give your wine the flavor that you want. Again, 1/2 ounce per gallon. I'm gonna put 5/2 in here. 5, there we go. All right, this is a must. Yeast nutrient. This is gonna help your yeast get going 24 hours from now. So 1/2 teaspoon per gallon, 5 of these. And lastly is acid blend. Again, it adds flavor to your homemade wine. I'm gonna use a 1/2 teaspoon per gallon, so I want 5 of these. Now, if you're making like an orange wine or that, you might not be able to, you might not have to use acid blend. In fact, I probably wouldn't. And 5. Now, you can see in the bottom of the bucket, we got our additives in there. So that's what we want now, the fun. We get to put our fruit in here, but don't miss this step. If you're making wine from fruit, you gotta use a mush bag. It's just gonna make your life easier. And especially since we're making this in 30 days, we want to get most of that pulp out of here as possible. So here's the bag. Now remember, I sanitized everything here, the bucket, my equipment. This bag has been soaking in sanitizer. You don't want to miss that step. So here we go. I'm going to just put this in gently because I don't want to lose my bag. So let's just get all our fruit in here. Oh, and if you could smell these pineapples, this is gonna be incredible. Oh yeah, get every last drop. That's 1. All right, just dump it in. There we go. Now it's time to get this sealed up. So there we go. I got everything in here. I'm gonna pull this up. I like extra precaution here. So you will see me do this on every wine video. Twist tie, tie this up. There we go, and I'll just cut that off. All right, so you remember that simple syrup we had on the stove? We can add this here. Remember, it has to be cooled to room temperature or very close. Now what we want to do, we got to check the ABV of this, but I know my liquid's probably going to have to come up to about this lip. So when you're adding water to get to your potential alcohol, you got to do it very slowly. You want this somewhere for a wine, somewhere between 8 and 15%. I like it about 12%, and that's what I'm gonna shoot for. So here, I know, like I said, we're way down. I'm gonna add some water before I test this. We got those additives in the bottom. So I got my sanitized paddle here. We're just gonna stir this at this point and get some of that stuff mixed in. And push your bag down in and get that fruit submerged. That's good enough. So now we're gonna test the ABV because we want two readings. We want this initial reading, and what I'm looking for is the potential alcohol side here. On mine, it goes from 0 up to 25%. So initial reading, like I said, that's potential. That's what we want to wind up with. So I'm going to try and get that to 12%. And the best way to do this, if you're making a 5-gallon batch, is just to float it. And you can see I'm at 22%. I'll give you a close-up of that. But we got a lot more water to get this down. I know it's coming up to here. So I added more water here, and I'm about an inch where I like to get it. And make sure, again, if you're new to this, you take your time and add a little at a time because you don't want to overshoot your mark. All right? So let's put this back down in and see where it's at. That's somewhere between 14 and 15%. We're getting very close. All right, I added more water here. I'm just gonna give it a stir. You wanna do this each time you're adding water. You don't want the water sitting at the top of this wine. But man, if you could smell this. Again, this is my favorite wine I've ever made. I love it, and you will too. Let's see where it comes in. It's about 13%. I'll add a little bit more, but I know we're ready to stop. All right, so that was a busy day. Day one, wasn't it? Now what we want to do is, all we got to do is get the lid on here in the airlock, and we'll come back in 24 hours and get that yeast in. Make sure you're waiting 24 hours because you got the Camden tablets in there. You don't want to kill the yeast that you put in. So there we go. Seal it up, and there's my airlock. Make sure you're filling this at the proper level too, or it'll just cook out. Day 2, it's time to add our yeast. We'll give this a little bit of a stir. Now, when you add your yeast, I got 1 packet of Red Star yeast linked in the description. Just sprinkle it on wherever you see some wine. That's all you got to do. We're not going to stir this in at all at this point. We'll wait till the next day. Let's get the lid on. I don't know if you can see it, but the bubbler has started bubbling already, and we didn't even stir this yeast in. Let's get it opened up and stir this. So here we go. This is day 3. So that's it. We're just going to stir this for the next couple days, and I'm not going to bore you with that because it's the same process. You want to scrape your sides, scrape the bottom if you can, and that's it. We'll get it closed back up. You'll see each day as I go here. I'll at least open it up and put a video in here of how it's gonna really start foaming. Let's get it closed back up. Day 4. Oh, and you should smell the pineapple. This pineapple wine's gonna be great. Day 5. Remember, you want to get oxygen in here in your first week, so that's why we're stirring it. Day 6. Look at all this foam. Day 7. All right, we added that yeast about 14 days ago, 12 days ago or something, but you can see it's just crawling at this point, so we want to check it. Remember, we stirred this for the first 5 days, and now on days 8, 9, 10, and 11, we just let it sit. No stirring. We want to keep some of the oxygen out at that point, but in that first couple days, it's important to stir it. Let's take a reading. All right, let's get this lid opened up and see what this looks like. I haven't seen it in a couple days now, but oh man, I smell pineapple. That over there. Now you can see a lot of the foaming is not there on the side. So I got my sanitized paddle here, and I'm just gonna move this bag over, and I'm gonna drop our hydrometer in to see if we're at a 1.0 specific gravity. That's what we want. All right, here's our sanitized hydrometer. And this should fall all the way down if it's done. And it looks like it has. I'll take a close-up of this, but it's exactly 1.0. Now, if you remember, our potential alcohol was like around 12.5 to 13%. And when you get a specific gravity of 1.0, that means that's what your ABV is going to be. This pineapple wine is going to be 12.5 to 13%. Perfect. So we're on day 13. It's time to get this racked and get our first filtering agent. This is where it gets tricky, because if you want to make wine in less than 30 days, you've got to follow these specific tips. The first tip is bentonite. We're going to create a slurry of this, get it mixed in, get it in our carboy, and then we'll rack this wine in on top of it. I'll show you that here in the next step. Now, when you're using bentonite, make sure you're mixing it according to your specific pack. This one here says you take a half a cup of warm water, which I got here, and you add two teaspoons, which is sufficient for 5 gallons. And that's the batch size we're doing. So let's get 2 teaspoons in here. And you can see how it's puffing up there. I got a sanitized fork here that we're just going to mix this into a slurry. I find a fork works pretty good on this. All right, I got my sanitized carboy. Here is my milkshake consistency bentonite. And we're gonna add it to our empty carboy, because when we rack our wine, we want it to mix up a little bit. So here we go. Without making a mess, just dump it in here. So now it's time to get our lid off, and I got our sanitized racking cane right here, and we're just gonna gently put this down on one of the sides here. Now we don't wanna stir this up. We wanna get as much as that dead yeast that's probably laying on the bottom out. So I got my carboy down below here. Let's put that in, and we'll get our siphon going. There we go, and it's going down. So I can't wait to see. You should smell this wine. It smells like pineapple. It's my favorite wine ever. We're gonna fill up this carboy. I got a spare in case we need a little extra. Now I'll start to lift this bag up so we can drain some of the juice out as we go. Oh, this batch, I thought I'd get another gallon out of that, but it didn't even fill up my 5-gallon carboy, but it ain't much. And that's probably, I don't know, maybe a quart to half a gallon. Now, you saw I put this airlock on. You want to keep it on as much as possible here. But I'm just going to fill this up with water to about the level I like, which is right in there. Remember, we added a lot of extra fruit in this. So adding water is not a bad thing. You wouldn't want to add more than like a gallon to a 5-gallon batch. If it's a half a gallon, that's just fine. We got the bentonite at the bottom here. We want to get that stirred in at this point. And we're going to stir that for the next 3 days. I got some sanitizer here. I'll just sanitize my paddle. And wait a minute. Now, if you saw where I added this, I added water. If you have extra wine, it's perfect to top off. I get a lot of questions is how do I top that off? I got all kinds of wine downstairs. Sometimes I'll mix like a banana wine in with this, but I just wanted to add water and keep this just pineapple because I'm making this in 30 days And I'm getting a lot of people asking for this. So there we go. Let's get this in here and we'll stir this bentonite in. And like I said, we're gonna do this for the next 3 days. Stir this bentonite in. And then we'll let it sit for 4. So the bentonite process is gonna be a 7-day process in reverse direction. Remember, when we added that bentonite, you might get a few lumps in there, but stirring it for 3 days is gonna break it all up, I promise. Do you see the color of this? It's like glowing. I'll sanitize that airlock a little bit. And we're just gonna sit it over here in my kitchen. And I'll stir this each day. I'll show you what I'm talking about. But look at this. I can't wait to taste this. It's getting ready. We got like 7, 8, 9, like 11 more days, and we're gonna be bottling this. And that was day 13. We're almost halfway.
Could it be you and I? Could it be you and I?
So day 17 and 23, we let this bentonite work. We're still trying to get this ready within 30 days, and we're right on target. But now, today, I want to rack this out into a new carboy. I got it already sanitized, and we're going to hit it with the super clear. This will refine this in about 2 to 3 days. So if we're on day 24, that'll make this wine ready in 27 days. Let's get this racked. All right, so I got my sanitized carboy down here. We want to remove this lid, get our hose down in here, and obviously get this racked. You see me do this many times on this channel. And we want to stay away from that bentonite. I'm not having a good day. I just spilled a little wine on the floor here. And I know I've said this before. I hate these 5-gallon carboys. They're just heavy to move around. You stir it up a little bit. That's why I do 3 gallons. If it wasn't for this pineapple, which is my favorite, I would not be using this 5-gallon. I'm going to start using 2, 3 gallons, if anything. That's my rant in this video. And that's it. So here it is. I racked it into my sanitized carboy, and you can see I got some headspace here. Number one, I spilled a little bit of wine, but that's okay. It happens. But I happen to have some orange wine that I'm just going to top this off with. That would be enough to add water. But when I have wine around, especially when I have extra wine, I like to use that. So let's just get this in here. This is gonna be perfect, I think. Oh my goodness. You should smell the pineapple coming out of this bottle. It smells incredible. I'll just add a little bit of water too. There we go. Just where it's coming up. Again, you want to keep as much oxygen out as you can. So that's good. Let's get to the super clear. The super clear, I got links to everything you see on this in the description, including the recipes, but it's a 2-part series. You've got the Casilosol and then you got a Cheeto sand. So the first thing we do is packet 1 is the Casilosol. We're going to open that up, and then it says to add the Cheeto sand at least 1 hour after, up to 24 hours. So we'll have plenty of time here. And this will do up to a 5-gallon batch, which is what we got. There we go. Now it says to stir this in vigorously, so that's what I'm going to do next. So I got my sanitized paddle, and what we're going to do is just stir this vigorously like it says, reversing directions. We want to get all that mixed in for sure. Let me get on this side of it. Now, I got a whole video on this super clear filtering and refining agents where I've tested this. And this super clear, I was amazed with. So that's what's going to speed this process up some and allow us to make wine from fruit in 30 days or less. Now, a lot of you have also asked, do I degas my wine? Well, if you remember the bentonite, we stirred it like this, and we're doing it again. So that is doing a lot of our degassing. But to be honest, it's not even necessary. All right, so I think that's it. I'll put this airlock back on and come back in about an hour and we'll add that second part to this. So the next step it says is that you take your second part of this super clear and you take 2 ounces of water, which I got in this measuring cup. Or I'm sorry, it's 2 tablespoons of water or 1 ounce. Just follow your directions. And in that warm water, we're gonna add the Cheeto sand or Chitta sand. And we'll give this a stir, and then we're gonna get it added to our carboy. There we go. Just give that a gentle stir. So there we got our mixture. And it says to add this very slowly and gently. It says make it take 30 seconds. So I am going to probably fast forward this, but I'll add it very slowly, like the directions say. Follow the directions. Now, we'll just sanitize our airlock here, which I got in this spray bottle. Comes in handy all the time. Now, it does not say to stir this at this point, so I'm just going to let it go. It says wait till this becomes crystal clear. 24 to 48 hours, I think we'll be bottling, but let's check back in tomorrow and see what it looks like. Now, I know a lot of you talk about the natural way to make wine. This Liquor Quick or Super Clear is made out of crushed shells. So they say it's an all-natural product and safe to use. So this is what we're gonna need to finish up our pineapple wine we made in less than 30 days. All right, it's been exactly 48 hours since we put this Super Clear in here. Casey, links in the description. But do you see how clear this is? You can see my hand behind it. I'm amazed every time I use that product. This was day 24 and day 25 that we put that in here, and it's ready to bottle. We made pineapple wine from fruit in 25 days. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to get some sugar on the stove. I want 1 cup of sugar per 1 gallon of wine. So I'm getting 5 cups of sugar to back sweeten this. So now add your 5 cups of sugar to a pot, and I'm gonna add an equal amount of water to that. Here we go, I got 5 cups of water I'm gonna add to this. So there we go, we're just gonna give this a stir. Just like this, until it's crystal clear. Now, if you're not going to back sweeten your wine, which I highly suggest you do to bring out that pineapple flavor, you don't need to make this. So you can see down here some bubbles. That's when you know it's ready to turn your heat off. You don't want to burn your sugar. You want it to look like this, like crystal clear. All right, here we go. I'm mixing up some sanitizer. Make sure you're watching that sanitation video. I show you how to do this exactly, but I don't want to bore you because I did it so many times. Make sure you're sanitizing all your equipment. Your wine bottles, you're gonna need 5 wine bottles for every gallon. So I gotta have 25 wine bottles. And make sure you sanitize your corks. All right, we got our sanitized bucket here. It is time to get our Camden tablets in here, which is gonna help sterilize our wine before bottling. So I want 1 per gallon, a 5-gallon batch. I'm gonna crush up 5 of these. And the best way to do it is between 2 sanitized spoons. So the next thing, since I'm gonna back sweeten this wine, you wanna put potassium sorbate or stabilizer in here. I want a 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. So I'm gonna put 5 1/2 teaspoons in here. Now, you don't have to do this if you're not gonna back sweeten it, you want a dry wine. Now, a lot of you have asked, why does my wine not taste like fruit? And most of the reason is because you're probably not back sweetening your wine. If you back sweeten your wine, it's gonna bring out that fruit flavor. Even if you just add a little bit of sweetener, it's gonna bring that fruit flavor back into your wine. Enough of the rambling, it's time to get the wine in this bucket. All right, I got my sanitized racking cane here. It's time to rack this pineapple wine. I'm going to put this hose down in that bucket that I just put my additives in, and we'll get this in here, and we'll get a siphon going. And there we go. It's going down into our bucket. Now, remember, we got that clear stuff that pulled all the particles out of this wine. We want to stay away from the bottom of that. We don't want any of that in here because this is the finished product. I can't believe how clear this is, and we're only on day 25. I could have let this go a little bit longer if I wanted, but I'm too excited that it took 25 days. So you can see I left a little bit in there because I don't want that stuff in my wine. A lot of people I know will just filter this off and you put it through a coffee strainer and you can drink this. So you can see I put the lid back on this as soon as I was done racking it in. But remember, we put those additives at the bottom here. Now is the time to stir it. Got my sanitized stir stick here, stir paddle, and I'm just going to stir these additives in a little bit. Now, if you're not going to back sweeten it, you can just bottle it right from here. And one of the greatest things about this hobby is if you want a couple dry, you can bottle it here. Add some sweetener for a semi-sweet, have dessert wine and get it to a sweet. I'm going to bottle about 3 of these dry because I like to use them for topping off my other batches of wine. And we have friends that like the dry wine. So I'm going to just do 3 of them. So now's where the fun begins. We bottled 3 dry. Now I want to get this to semi-sweet where we like it. You just want to do this gradually. Got a whole video on how to back sweeten. So I know my wine's probably going to take just about all of this to get it to where we like it. But I'm only going to put half in, taste it to make sure, and then we'll keep adding till I get where I want. Let me get my sanitized paddle here. And you want to stir this in. Get it mixed up, your sweetener. And then I got a sanitized straw here that I'm just going to get some out and taste it and see if it's where I like it yet. You taste the pineapple in that. It's incredible. Let's get some more. That's perfect. Oh man, that's so good. I'm telling you, you gotta make this wine. It is the only recipe you will ever need for pineapple wine. All right, here it is, all the wine. 25 bottles of wine exactly. Remember I said 5 bottles per gallon, so that's why we got 25. But let me tell you, you all know this is my favorite wine I've ever made. You gotta try it. We had a little bit here extra, and we're gonna taste it. Stand up. So, did you smell it?
Oh my gosh.
It's like pineapple juice. I tell you, it's amazing.
Cheers.
Let's taste this. It's still, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it's the best wine, isn't it?
Yeah, it might be one of my new favorites because I like the banana, but this is up there. This is good.
I hope you enjoyed this wine in 25 days. Make sure if you're not liked and subscribe, I got another one coming up that you're not going to want to miss. Stay tuned. Have a great day.
Cheers. Oh, that hurts to stand on my tippy toes that long.
I wanna see the city lights in